Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Octavius Crouch, Senior Client Manager and A&R of Hip Hop and R&B for Symphonic Distribution. You are now tuned into the Breaking Through, which we're going to show you how to use data and videos to launch your hip hop career. If you don't know much about me, I've been in the music business for quite some time. I started out as an A&R at Universal Records, working on various projects, from Chameleonaire all the way to Cash Money Records and various things in between. So from here, I don't want to focus too much on me. I also like you to know about the company. We've been in business since the early 2000s, and we pretty much pride ourselves in providing a platform for various clients to get your music distributed to all the DSPs and video DSPs. But to join me today, I have a great panel of guests who have a very extensive background, and I'll be honored to introduce everybody. And I'm gonna start with a person who's you've probably seen online, various videos, gets busy in her industry. Her name is Maya Table. And Maya, would you be able to let the people know what you do best and who you are?
Yay! Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. My name is Maya Table. I'm a director and a producer. Some of the projects I produced are, I was a post-production producer on Travis Scott's Sicko Mode, produced Janelle Monáe's Make Me Feel, most of Migos' videos, bunch of Usher videos, producing Apple's Rap Life, and I also direct. Recently, I directed some commercials for Head and Shoulders and Google's. And just been doing a lot of animation snippets during COVID. And I also just recently directed the Change video that Jermaine Dupri and Neo did via Zoom. So still just kind of like budding into my directing career.
Nice, nice. And thank you for joining us today. And moving on to this guy has co-founded a company I'm sure a lot of people have used for their platform, and that's Dave Ponte. And like to let you step in and introduce yourself. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Octavius. My name is David Ponte. I'm the co-founder and chief marketing officer for Mack. Mack is a discovery and streaming platform and app that allows artists to or labels to put their music on the platform for free, in addition to allowing fans to discover those artists for free as well, through a multitude of different features that allows and fosters discovery for new artists and new sounds. So this is my second symphonic panel. Last year was a lot of fun, and I'm hoping this year will be as much fun.
Thank you once again for joining us. Now this next person, she definitely gets busy when it comes to branding and strategizing and making things pop, and that is LaTecia Johnson. Thank you for joining us. I'll let you speak to the people as well.
Thank you so much, Octavius. I'm so excited to be here. My name is LaTecia Johnson. I am the founder and chief brand strategist at Visionary Rising Agency. We founded in 2016, and we are a full-scale agency and production studio, really focused on crafting authentic campaigns driven by creators and culture for brands who want to reach diverse audiences. Prior to that, and kind of in tandem, I also work in technology for a lot of great companies, on the data side for Nielsen Media for a number of years, Microsoft, and more recently, Apple. Excited to be here.
Again, we thank you for joining us. Now, next up, another agency that you're definitely familiar with, and if you're not, you're about to find out. I'd like to welcome Jesse onto the stage. Jesse, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Like David said, this is my second symphonic panel, me as well. Last year, RapCon was a ball. Now it's a totally different world. It's Zoom life, baby. It's a pandemic. And I am having some technical difficulties as I'm a little bit nomadic these days. I'm out in California, and the cell service is a little spotty. But I want to give some background on myself. I run an agency called New. we live at the intersection of music, technology, and brands. And essentially what we do is help brands make deeper, meaningful connections to their consumers by leveraging the power of music. And we have big clients like Fortune 100 companies that we put campaigns together for, like Mondelez's portfolio of brands like Sour Patch Kids, or emerging companies like the new hot CBD company that we're helping bring to market. My background is, before I was finding and developing brands and really helping come up with these robust brand strategies, I was working with artists, and I was the talent agent for a lot of artists that you might know. I was the first agent of record, and my agency represented artists like Clips and Pusha T and Wale and Big Sean and Mike Posner and Action Bronson and Capital Cities and Logic and J. Cole and a whole other slew of artists. And so I've got a background in the talent agency and breaking artists in kind of innovative ways. And now we do partnerships between brands and music.
Perfect, man. We definitely thank you for joining us with all the knowledge. And without further ado, couldn't forget this last great person who's once again very experienced in the digital side of this business when it comes, and has another agency that he'll be able to drop some knowledge on you, and that's Jay. Jay, can you step up to the stage, please?
Hey, very nice to meet everybody. I'm Jay Waddell. My company's called Valor. It's a spinoff from my record label, actually, it's Trackaholic Music Group. I started in the industry back when I was like 18. I was a record producer, racked up some pretty decent placements. And I actually flipped it and turned into TV and film. So early on, I started pitching a lot of hip hop for music and television. So I've helped get artists and producers on, the Love and Hip Hops, the Real Housewives of Atlanta, a lot of the popular shows like that, all the way up to X Games and doing stuff for ABC. And then kind of from there, jumped into music tech, started a company, Audio Common, out of MIT with some friends up there. That was a fun run. That's how I kind of got in with Symphonic. Actually doing some panels together back at A3C, talking about how you could leverage technology into music. I was an early adapter of playlists. I was working with Tuma and Spotify back in the day. I was able to get some indie artists on Most Necessary and really start some good trajectory. These days, I'm a lot more behind the scenes. I manage DJ 5 Venoms from Rolling Loud. I'm also managing his label Sick World that we just launched through Symphonic. And then I also manage an artist out of Los Angeles named Cliff Savage. And we've been doing a ton of work in hip hop for years. So happy to be here, talk about some ways that we can give artists some great tools to grow their careers.
We thank you once again, everybody, for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, we have a great panel of guests who's going to definitely drop some knowledge on you today. So let's kick the ball around a little bit. Now that everything is went digital now, because we've kind of definitely moved away from the physical side of the business. And I came in the industry around the turning point of that, more the mid 2000s and ringtone era. And then Facebook, MySpace, all of that kind of started to blossom. So the industry definitely had a curve at that time. And a lot of people, even us at the majors, we didn't quite understand it. But now that we're in this market where everything is digital, everybody's online, let me ask you guys, what types of data is available for artists to use as a metric of success now when they're trying to gauge how well they're doing in the market?
Everything. Everything. I think huge metrics for success, I think, for artists that they should be looking at is how often are people returning to their music. So I know a lot of times, especially on streaming, they're really focused on, first month or first weekend. What I want to understand is 6 months from now, what is your catalog performing and how are your videos performing? Because if you're growing, then that's a metric that people are actually not only paying attention for the now, but they're engaged and continuing to come back to find you. And that's how you create fans.
I agree.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
So at Audio Mac, we have a plethora of data available to us, as well as the data that we give to artists and labels as well, so they can make wise decisions about their marketing and their business. And it's one of the reasons why Audio Mac makes a lot of our stats and metrics available. You could see number of plays, you could see playlist ads, you could see favorites. And you could see re-ups, which is our version of a retweet or a repost.
Okay.
And I tell this to artists that come to our offices quite often, is that it's not just the total number of plays that's important. It's how people are engaging with that. So if they're adding it to a playlist, that means they want to hear it again. If they're adding it to their favorites, that means that they're going to want to hear it again. If they're re-upping it, that means that they're vouching and they want their followers to see it. And then, of course, shares on social media is also another form of vouching. Inside our creator dashboard, which every artist that and label that uses the platform sees for free, is what type of playlist the song has been added to. So you can see what other types of artists that their competitors or that they're with, and you can make decisions and glean insights from that information. You could also see where people are listening to their music, and you could take that information and work with different booking agents and different people in the industry to say, all right, we need to really focus on Arizona. We really need to focus on Nigeria, right? Because Audio Mac is very big in Africa. We have a lot of different users in a lot of the countries there. And a lot of the times the American artists don't realize that their music in Africa is as big as it is in the States. And that's eye-opening for a lot of artists. So really, it's more than just the vanity stats. You really want to get in deep and see, what are these other metrics that are coming to me that I'm seeing that's going to let me go, all right, maybe we should focus on this song. It's getting more favorite ads. It's getting more playlist ads. Maybe we should put our resources and money into making a video for that song and then continue to push that. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we're seeing at Audio Mac.
Hey, I think that's dope, man. I really think that's awesome. I really like to see how Audio Mac's really grown across the landscape over the last couple of years, especially. I think you guys are doing it the right way. I think you've, in my opinion, taken over SoundCloud in terms of the culture specifically. I think that's awesome. I think the artists need to, of course, baseline level with the free apps, Spotify for artists, Apple Music for artists. Like, you got to start with the stuff that they give you. YouTube Studio, like, you have to understand that. Like, that's fundamental, right? The Facebook metrics, like, you need to understand who's coming to your page. You just need to know all of these things. Spotify, they show it in public facing, but you need to jump behind the scenes and start taking a deep dive into all time, like the young lady said, 6 months from now, go back all time. Let's go back 28 days. Let's go back 24 hours. I think the data's all there. Something that I think personally for me has helped out, and it's been a little bit of an investment, is Chartmetric. And I don't get paid by them, okay? And I was even asking
one moment, what was that?
Say something about it before I come on here. Say it again?
No, I'm sorry, because it had went out, so I didn't want anybody to miss that information. But what was that last program or platform you were referring to?
Chartmetric. Did you hear it?
No, you just went out again. Could you repeat that?
I'm so sorry. Chartmetric.
Okay, and what's Chartmetric?
All right, so I found out about Chartmetric earlier in the year when I was trying to validate playlists, right? So you hear about bots, you hear about fake streams, you hear about, boosting, you hear about all these things that are going on across the landscape, especially with labels, and you hear, how can indies compete with that? And so for me, whenever I'm working with clients and I'm working with my artists, I do want to understand, like, how good, how specific can we get to the user? And Chartmetric was something that I found. Now, everybody should sign up at least for a 7-day trial and just spend 7 days on it. That's what I did. Okay. First time I found it, it was a free trial for 7 days. And for 7 days, I just lived there. And I was able to pretty much find out because it pulls the API for you from Spotify, from YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It pulls it all together, and it even gives you like a score. It compares your score against other artists that have similar amounts of listeners. in the same demographic. I mean, it takes it all the way down to like, what type of hip hop are you? Are you deep underground? Are you emo? So for me, I think it's tools like that that really give you an advantage, because who's really trying to pay $150 a month to know how many people really listen? Well, I am, because I think I can turn that $150 into something else by really making smart decisions with my ads, with my with everything. Like literally, I'm going to spend the money specifically to where my data is telling me to spend the money. I'm not just going to make an emotional spend and spend it in my hometown where people may not like me because they're jealous. Maybe I want to spend it in Germany where people like it because of the style of music I have. So for me, I think that's the stuff that indies need to look at. It's just ways that you can differentiate yourself from the competitors.
I agree. And that's one thing we do here at Symphonic. We do provide a platform so you can see all of your data, all the metrics. You can also, of course, keep track of your money, which is based upon the streams. So the more data that you have available, that will help you be able to market, promote, and kind of centralize where to target the correct audience. Because one of the biggest problems that I see with artists is that they're pushing the right thing to the wrong audience. And if you kind of just focus on who this is for, and granted, we are in an era where a lot of the music is very genre bending, and there's no labels on it per se, but you still want to be able to focus on an audience initially so you can kind of grow from there. And speaking of which, I mean, let me ask everybody, what's your thoughts? What do you see that's out there as far as marketing techniques, assets that a lot of artists are just failing to utilize to their advantage?
Ooh, I just inboxed someone about that because I'm the type of person that if I see something that you could have did better, I'll just drop it in your inbox and it's like, why did you do that? So a person I work with often is Brian Michael Cox. Like I'll create content for them or re-edits. And so he posted a poster of his song and said, yeah, check it out on Apple or Spotify. And I was just like, I'm not gonna click. You need to put a snippet right here so we can hear it, and then that'll make me go click. So sometimes I think that artists just think that their audience are just going to engage because they posted something, which is true sometimes, but we are getting so much content to us, so you have to make it easy. So if I'm on Instagram, I don't want to click off of Instagram. If I'm on Facebook, I'm not going to click off, and the same for YouTube. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing that I see is that, and also artists don't create multiple kind of posts. Because with the new Instagram algorithm, you could post something at 8 a.m. and I don't see it till 8 p.m. or I don't see it at all. So it's like posting that same thing over and over at least 3 times in different ways. So you may have posted it just with a moving image, and next time you post it with the static image, and you'll be able to see what your followers like the most. Maybe they like the static image the most. So I think that's the biggest part is just assuming that your fans are going to do exactly what you want to do because you posted it one time, and forgetting that we have so much other stuff coming at us.
Yeah, and to also speak to what Maya is saying, I think that what I see a lot of is artists not utilizing their own platforms, like their newsletters and their websites, to integrate with the social media and other content that you're posting. Because a lot of times when you're on social media all the time, you're thinking like these are followers, but followers doesn't equate to fans. So fans are going to be the ones who sign up for your newsletter, who go to your website and are checking out your music. And so in order for you to kind of engage with them on a consistent basis is, yes, absolutely post it to your social media profile, because that is what's going to get everyone out there. But then also double back and send out that weekly recap to the people on your newsletter. Focus on growing that newsletter, re-engaging them, sending them exclusives, because the more that you're able to engage with them directly, then you're going to be able to break out, not necessarily only focusing on social media, because everyone is on social media right now.
I like that, because you got to circle back and you got to keep targeted, not spam, but like Maya said earlier, it's just same content, but just a different way of presenting it. But now is there
one more thing to it? So I directed a video for this one artist and I posted it to my page, but then I got flagged and I wasn't able to use it because of her music. And so that happens to so many artists. And I always wonder, like, well, how do you want, people can't like share your video or make, create their own videos and put your song if it's being blocked. So I think this is something that artists should think about. Like, think about which songs you just want for social media to possibly go viral, and which ones do you actually want to make money from royalties from.
Yes.
That's a great.
I would say.
Go ahead.
I would say an area that artists should focus on, and I know that it's performance is very important, and the aesthetic of a performance is very important, but I would think that live streaming, I see how powerful it is as a medium, and I feel like more and more artists should embrace the live streaming space and look at it as something that is not going to go away even post-pandemic, and in the foreseeable future. I think that live stream is going to continue to grow, and I think it's here to stay. And I feel like there's new worlds that are happening that are also going to be great marketing opportunities for artists and great ways to partner in these kind of virtual worlds that are happening. And from, you know, everything from Wave XR to Fortnite to a lot of these ones that are coming up, I feel like I've seen a lot of artists grow and build and connect to their audience, which they can't normally through doing performances, by doing live streaming.
I agree. But I know we've been speaking a lot about social media, and that's always a good launch pad to build your following, get the word out there, go viral, you know, with TikTok and Instagram and things of that nature. But ultimately, you do want to get everybody to the DSPs. And if you're not familiar with a DSP is, that's referring to Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, of course, and of course, YouTube as well. So, because at the end of the day, this is where you're going to make your money from the streams, by being on the DSPs. So since so many artists tend to be focused particularly on social media, what are ways that they can use to move their following or audience from the free platforms to the platforms where they can actually make money?
I think paid advertising. I know that a lot of times artists tend to shy away from it because they want organic, they want viral, they want the authentic connection. But I think that to diversify your marketing strategy, right? It's not just about posting it. Their Facebook and Instagram especially have really great ads managers where you can go in and target their audience directly and retarget them. And again, it goes back to the website, the newsletters, right? How are you engaging with people and driving them to actually take an action? Another area is also brand partnerships. How are you engaging with brands to utilize their audience to then drive them back to a specific action? A lot of times when people are on social media, they're not going to click out of social media and then go somewhere else. So then you have to really be targeted to them in how you run those ads to, you know, have them sign up for an email, have them sign up for a pre-save or pre-ad where as it's going through, it'll automatically get added to their playlist when they see it. So then they don't have to worry about coming back, clicking again, saving again. And then also, you know, I love Audio Mack because I always say this, they are the platform for discovery. So really look at and engage on that platform to see how you can engage with your audiences directly.
Yes.
Thanks, LaTecia.
And Dave, I was going to ask your thoughts, Dave.
Yeah. Well, everything she said is 100% correct, of course. I think everyone is making really good points. I'm actually just learning a lot, just listening to everyone. But I think actually I wanted to answer the last sort of question we have, and I think that also folds into what we're talking about now, where you know, how can you present your product or service to the right person at the right time, right? A very simplified way to look at it, and advertising as well. So I think one small technique that I've been harping on for a while is, you know, every Thursday night and Friday, everyone drops music. You know, as a curator and as someone who manages a whole team of curators, we spend, you know, up to 10 hours each going through all the music, hundreds and hundreds of songs. And if you're a person looking to discover music, is just too much. You know, a song that I might, put on the top of our trending page, or that is on leading one of our big playlists on a Tuesday, may be the 30th or 40th thing down on a Friday. So if I'm an independent artist, or even a developing major label artist, I would look to put music out on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursday mornings. Not that you can't put music out on the most common day, but it's the most saturated day. So you're going to have a little more real estate and have a little bit more time the whole week to promote your song or your video to your fans, as opposed to being just one of the hundreds that are all putting them out on Friday. And I think with social media posting, you could spend those Tuesdays and Wednesdays talking about the music that you just put out. If you're going to put out, if you're going to post a picture on Instagram of, you're wearing your best fit, you're looking good, try to work that into like a song you just put out. Don't just put a picture of you looking good on Instagram and find some quote, and put it up there. How does that post relate to the music that either you're going to put out or that you have just put out? Try to make it connect there, so that when someone is reading it and looking at it, it's sort of a riddle that they could figure out and be like, oh, I actually want to go listen to that song. Because really the best way to get someone to take an action is to convince them that they thought of taking the action themselves, as opposed to you telling them about it. We call it planting a seed in their head to take the action. And then now it's something that they had their own free will to do. And then ultimately that's someone who's a fan, who's, taking this action because they want to take the action. So there's really, think about every little thing that you're doing with an Instagram post, with a tweet, with a TikTok, to try and get them to go to, AudioMack or any DSP to actually listen to that song.
That makes a lot of sense. And once again, here at Symphonic, we do try to educate the client on timing of the releases, because one of the biggest issues that artists fail to do is just be on time with the delivery of the content, because you want to get on the playlist, but they don't realize there's thousands of submissions every week, and these things are done 3 to 4 weeks in advance. And if you're not planning the assets, the content, the pictures, the videos, everything on time to provide to the DSP, why would you expect it to get featured in the playlist or any type of editorial? So timing is very key in this industry. And especially with the visual, I like that's a good point that we can segue into, is that now that visual is a big part of everything with social media, of course, now you have two components. You have the Instagram, the TikToks, and then over here you have YouTube. So it's like, now when an artist is looking at both, what's the pros and cons of utilizing these assets, and which one would be best to, as their option to pursue first, especially if they're trying to get started?
Everything. And also it's like you'll find out where your strongest audience is. So sometimes I have labels come to me and they already have their full music videos planned out, and they just hire me to come up with a campaign for that day that the album launches. So I did that with Light Skin Keisha recently, and with the artist named Saucy Santana. So it's just like, help us create hype around this artist. So for me, it was great. So my idea is always doing small snippets, because you do a snippet that's 30 seconds or 60 seconds, instead of spending money on one full music video, we can do 6 30-second videos. And just for me, it's thinking of the most creative things that's a bit shocking for the artist. So Santana is super effeminate. He wears nails and heels. So for him, if he dresses super masculine, so he recreated, Big Worm from Friday, and then he recreated, what else did we recreate? Scarface, and all these super dominant characters, and I had him perform each song, and it looked really beautiful, and he went viral. It trended on Twitter and Instagram that day. And this is more about that shock value. And then the full length videos we put on YouTube, because his YouTube audience is, is kind of their own beast. And then with YouTube, doing premieres. So it's all about just building excitement, not just dropping something. Like, if you know it's coming out on Friday, get us excited that it's coming out on Friday. Because if you're hyped, then I'm going to get hyped too. And then just make sure that you have, something different for each platform.
I agree.
Yeah. I agree.
Jay, well, let's see, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just saying I agree.
And Jay,
I would say that
just one. Oh, go ahead. Jay.
I was going to say that each platform has its own strengths too. So I agree with Maya that you got to kind of do everything and test and measure to see which you're getting the best results on and where your fan base is really galvanizing or at least behind you and you're getting the best engagement. But each platform has its own strengths. So there are different platforms that have different kind of messages or kind of better ways to utilize. I would say utilizing Snapchat and TikTok different than you might be utilizing Instagram and YouTube. So it's all about really knowing what your brand stands for, knowing what your audience wants, and then crafting messages to the strengths of each platform.
Now, let me ask you, with that said, what type of content works best on social media opposed to YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube is a client of mine, so I've worked closely with YouTube Music, and I understand their platform really well. Their sweet spot is the short to long form video. So they really win in the 3 to 5 minute range, and not that much longer. It doesn't need to be the longest video on YouTube, and it's way more searchable on YouTube in terms of with Google, obviously because of being owned by Google as its parent company. And so YouTube, I would utilize for shoulder content, for that's like these kind of ancillary videos, behind the scenes, longer form videos. And I would also push to YouTube the kind of final product that's a little bit glossier versus other platforms. Like an Instagram, I would use the snippet. I would use the GIF. I would use the reel. I would use the click to. I would use the kind of that image that really is glossy. But YouTube is as just clear strengths over other platforms when it comes to video and search for video.
It doesn't even have to be super complicated. It can be lyric videos. Like people were reaching out to Estelle because I forgot what the name of the movie was that came out on Netflix, and she had a song in there. And so she hit me up the next day like, hey, people keep wanting to hear this song and I need to do a video. So let's do a lyric video. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So sometimes it doesn't have to be something super drawn out, and that was just a couple $100 and it was super easy. So sometimes it's also just, just putting something out so your fans have it. And then if that's going great, then it helps you measure, well, let me give them another version of this. So it doesn't have to be like super expensive, I would say.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, and you both bring up a lot of good points, man, especially about trying to touch everything. I think one of the things that's important too is genuine content, right? So you guys talk about everyone kind of being at home. I think it's kind of an advantage that people aren't taking advantage of, right? It's that everyone's kind of outside of their element. So to your point, there are going to be tech issues. There are going to be things that may have been frowned upon, right, in the normal world that everybody's kind of going through. So I think genuine content is important. I don't think people should chase fads if that doesn't work for them. I had a friend who was signed to a label and he's like a gangster rapper, and they had him doing a dance challenge and it just didn't connect, at all. It just did not connect. And so it's things like that. Like, you got to know your audience. You got to know what's important. Some people it works for, some it doesn't. But I think for indies specifically, I think they just have to be smart, because dollars are important when you're independent and you listen to everyone. You're going to blow your budget on one song and you're not even going to put the video out. Right. So I think, Maya, you're on point with the 6 30-second videos. There was this client I met out of Harlem. He had this series called Minute Mondays. And on every Monday, up until COVID hit, he dropped a minute video with a new song, and he dropped it on streaming services the same day. And I think that was a good way for him to always stay relevant. Sometimes songs can get long-winded. Your second verse isn't as good as your first. So it allows you to kind of showcase the best part of yourself, right? And kind of build up that excitement. But to me, it's always going to be genuine content that wins. If you're a gamer, you need to be on Twitch, right? You need to be focusing on the things that are important to you, because that's what's going to translate to the people that are going to feed off of you, So just genuine content. And I'll just say this as a music guy, make sure the music is good, because you can spend all of this money and you can do all of this stuff and you can do all of these things, but at the end of the day, music still matters, you know? So I just want people to remember to like also focus on your craft and make sure you're not making music for yourself. Like, we do this for other people. So for as much as we're pouring ourselves into it, we got to understand what people want and we got to focus on giving them things that are good.
I agree, and back and touch on something Maya mentioned about just even getting a lyric video out, because we recently released a song with Jermaine Dupri called "Change," which we worked with Maya with, and she did a beautiful job on the performance video. But prior to that, we needed something to go out with the single, so we internally just crafted a lyric video just to have something up there at the day of the release. You don't need much sometimes, but you just want to make sure you have enough content to fill various sectors in regards to your platforms, because you want to touch everything. Because you always tell artists you want to put all the dots out there and let the people connect them, because you never know how somebody's really going to come across your music. It can be in a TikTok. It may be because there's a video on YouTube or somebody shared something on Instagram. But either way, you just got to make sure you have enough content to touch on that. And it has me thinking. I was seeing an article this morning. It was on newsletter Tropical. So you know that the OG legend Busta Rhymes released a new album, and this is a person who he's been around various eras of the industry, all the way back to the physical, of course, and now he releases this anticipated album in the digital world. And the article was cool. It touched on a lot of things about how somebody of his caliber can still transcend and still make it now. And it touched on the fact that you have to touch on the various audience. You got to release the music independently. And there's so many things to touch on now, but now that everything is truly digital, especially post-COVID, it's like, how can an artist navigate through this oversaturated field now, since everybody's focused on just going digital now?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier about, dropping earlier in the week is certainly one very, easy thing that you could take advantage of. I think one thing that Busta kind of did was, and you're seeing pretty much every artist do this, is releasing a regular full-length album and then a deluxe version. I've wrote in the past about, the way that you could use streaming services and just this sort of infinite amount of tracks that you could put on an album to your advantage, because I don't think anyone really wants like a 30 or 40 album track, 40 song album. If you have 40 songs and you want to put all of them out, why not release them in different portions? 10 songs here, 10 songs there, 10 songs this week, 10 songs a month later. Even a deluxe is one way to do it. You see artists, they put, my favorite is that when you release a deluxe, the new songs are at the beginning of the album. So once you listen to that, the album that has been out plays immediately after, and you can get back into that mode. I've seen like artists like Gunna released a deluxe, and he sprinkled the new songs in every other song. And it was like, for a curator, it's impossible to, I don't even remember what song is new and old, but I think that can be effective, especially for an artist like Gunna. So like, you have the ability to be creative with this new streaming ecosystem that we're in. It's not a physical limitation of a certain amount of songs that fit on a CD or a cassette. You could be creative. You could do 5 songs and then do another 5 songs 2 weeks later, and now you have a 10-song EP. There's just ways to manipulate it so that you could get in front of as many people as possible. And I think we're getting towards that now with these deluxes, but I hope that it gets a little bit more creative, and you could utilize this infinite amount of space and really catalog that is available to artists now.
Yes. Now, from everybody else, branding geniuses, what's some of your thoughts on how they can, I guess, stand out now in this market, with everybody once again focusing on trying to push their music the same way?
To be honest, it's visuals. I think visuals are key. You have to everything has to be visual. So, I mean, that's probably my closing piece on that is the only way to stay relevant now is audio and you have to have some type of compelling video, the animations, you know, you got to have animated graphics. You can't just get by necessarily with the old things, the cover art that's dope and good music. You kind of have to have every single piece of it. So I think you have to make the music visual.
Yeah. And also for me, I think it's also about like not only the visual, but also figuring out what your audience wants. It's also about, you know, building a really great strategy. And for me, strategy is about building on the last thing that you did. And a lot of times what I'll see with independent artists, even with some major artists who kind of take their audience for granted, is that they're coming out with fragmented strategies. Nothing is connected, nothing makes sense. As an audience, as a consumer, why should I pay attention to your music if I don't even know what you did last week? And so finding ways to really tie it together and building out effective campaigns. And what is an effective campaign? It's an experience. So whether you're engaging with a brand to get on their platform, or you're going out and you're driving people from social media back to your own platform, your website, your newsletter, what is that experience? And that's how you're going to stand out, is to continue to create that experience for your consumers, build on strategies, using the visuals, but then there's also a companion. Now I have this exclusive, and now I'm continuing to build and to build and to build, to Maya's point. So now I'm excited, right? Like as a consumer, as a brand strategist, I'm excited because the artist is excited and they're providing me something new every single time.
I agree with that. And that's one of the things that we try to work with our clients is just the strategy. Because we're one of the distributors that do provide the marketing services for clients. So that way you're not just putting a release out there, you're actually having a planned action and a way to attack everything. And a lot of people just think they're just going to put the content up there and just let it go. But you do have to be very strategic. You know, every artist thinks very highly of themselves, and we do as well. We think highly of you, but everything is executed. The key word is timing, because you'll see one artist like a Beyonce or somebody, they appear to drop this project overnight and everybody just embraces it, but they're not factoring in all the logistics that lined up to make that appear like it just dropped out of nowhere. Because, you know, Dave will tell you this content assets has to be handed in on time to meet these deadlines. Same thing I did with this Jermaine Dupri record with Change. It was a crazy turnaround, and it was a lot of scrambling. Yes, we're used to that behind the scenes, but you can do that with certain caliber artists. If you're just coming up, it's not going to work, and there has to be a demand there.
And I love that you mentioned Beyonce, because I use Beyonce as an example all the time. I see a lot of artists, and I'm going to bring up websites again, but I just see too many independent artists abandoning their websites. And so I have this idea that I say it's the Beyonce method. When Beyonce releases something, she releases it on her website, she releases it on her platform, she releases it but it's always through her own platform. So if Beyonce can have a website and a newsletter to engage people, every artist in their team and independent label should at the very least have a website and a newsletter. And that's the last time I promise I'm going to mention website.
No, you're fine. Everybody is tuning in to get this information, now that brings us to our last question, which is, in everybody's opinion, what services should artists utilize to have a successful release with all the various, when I say services, you know, you have marketing, you have publicity, what are things that, and even if it is an obvious thing, they may need a reminder. So what are some services that artists should utilize to have a successful release?
I think you want to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Maya.
Oh no, this is going to be a shameless plug. I would say onboarding like a content creator that can like create stuff very quickly on your team and flip it around fast is like super important. So that way when things happen, I'm already there, because that happens quite often. I'm already there just at my computer just for days drinking coffee, but I'm with it because I know that that's okay. We're just is just for a week or two. So I think that's super important. That way you don't even have to think about that. You can just tell that person what you want and they just crank it out for all those platforms.
Mhm.
I agree with Maya there. I think that it's important that you've got someone on your team that can coordinate your content, because you need to be moving at the speed of culture. The name of the game right now in breaking an artist is relevancy, and the way to stay relevant above everything, unfortunately, even the music, is to stay at top graph. So you need to be flooding your platforms with content strategically in a way that you're continuing to show up over and over again, hitting your fans over the head with new, fresh content ideas, and then even the content you've made cut up in all of these different ways. That's the beauty of these platforms, is it doesn't cost anything to post. So you might as well, and it's proven time and time again that it's most effective if you continue to post and you continue to flood. And if you shoot a video, you shoot it in 100 different pieces of content that can then go across all of these different platforms. There's really an efficient way to game the system, and that's really gravitating towards where you're celebrated, but flooding all of these different platforms so you stay at the top of the social graph.
Yes. And I do feel that people or clients, labels, artists, one crucial thing you have to think about is your team. You need somebody who's going to do marketing. You also have to understand marketing and publicity are two separate things. So you do need that publicist or entity that can create the story, because marketing is going to more so create ideas of how we can market and push this out here, but you want that publicist who can actually craft a story, take your assets and actually create something where people are going to want to listen to it. Then you're going to need a promo team. It is good to have a manager. If you can self-manage, that's great, but a couple things may fall through the cracks. And is there any other teams that you guys may recommend that, or services that artists should make sure they have in place preparing for a release?
Find a graphic designer and make him your best friend.
Yes. You definitely need somebody to do that artwork.
Seriously, stay off of Canva. Stay off of Canva. Stay off of Over. And yeah, to your point, Octavius, get a team, because as much as we hear about the Travis Scotts that produce, rap, engineer, right, do all these things, like, you need to space it out, and you need a support team around you, and not yes men.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
And I think a project manager or someone to really just focus on strategy to add into all the other pieces that they mentioned, that you all mentioned. Publicist, yes. Content creator, absolutely. Social media manager, right? Because a lot of times the content creator is not going to be the same as a social media manager, and you have to understand that difference. Graphic designer, marketing, and then also a strategy, someone who's pulling it all together. That way the artist is just creating the content. That's their only job, is to create the content and post it. Everyone else is going to figure out when it should be posted. Everyone else is going to figure out how to drive it, where to put it, all of that. I see a lot of artists making their jobs harder than it has to be because they're not building effective teams.
And to add to that, the big area that for artists that we haven't really covered in terms of getting your content out there is partnerships with artists, other artists, and also partnerships with brands. So in order to service brands properly, you need to be making content that brands want to be affiliated with. And brands are used to working with influencers. Artists are so much more talented than influencers. Artists make music. So they should be a really viable option for brands to work with, even on a smaller, more narrowed, focused level where their fans are really kind of committed. So I think that you got to have somebody on your team that can work with brands or knows how to work with brands. If it's your booking agent that also slashes as your brand agent, I definitely think that you want to be courting the power of brands, because it amplifies your message and also can be a great revenue stream.
Yep.
Great. Everybody made some great points, which does bring us to the end of this journey today. And I definitely hope that everybody tuning in learned something from these great guests. And what I like to do is let everybody, I'll start around, let everybody give their final thoughts on what artists need to make it, in your opinion. Now I'll start with Dave. What do you feel do artists need just to have a chance out here?
I think an artist needs to truly have a passion for what they're doing. Sometimes you see artists that just kind of want to be famous or just want to have clout or notability. Those artists either don't make it ever or their run is very limited. So just be passionate about what you're making. Don't make a dance video like Jay was saying unless you're a dancer, right? I mean, it seems simple. I would also suggest to artists that it's all about productivity. And I believe I said this last year on the panel for Symphonic, but make a lot of posts on social media, make a lot of songs. Doesn't mean you have to put out a lot, but just make a lot, get better at what you're doing. Make at least 10,000 songs before you consider yourself as good as you're going to get, right? Because people, the true fans and the people that influence other fans are going to want to, cape for the artists that are really talented, that are really doing something different. And with that comes the passion, also comes the proliferation of the music, and also comes the ability to differentiate themselves. So just be as productive as you can, make as many songs, write as many songs, work with as many different producers. And then, related to the last question, what services should they use? I would recommend using all of them. I wouldn't, of course I could just say, oh, use AudioMack, we're going to solve all your problems. But I actually don't believe that. I want artists to use, even our competitors, make the funnel as wide as it possibly could be to get the fans hooked in. And then, towards the bottom of the funnel is where your smart link would be, where I would hope AudioMack would have some real estate there. And that's where you're trying to get people to do to eventually to take those engagement metrics like I was talking about earlier, to save your song, to add it to their playlist, to share it on social media. So that's what I would recommend. And then of course, patience. Stars aren't made overnight, even if they appear like it. It really takes a constant, focus on the craft, to be patient, to work with the right people, not just your friends, not that you can't work with friends too, but to work with the right people that are going to have your best interests in mind, that are talented at what they do, to truly have a good team that's going to be behind you, so that you could achieve your goals. And it may not even be to be the size of an artist like a Weeknd or a Drake or Beyonce. There's a middle class of artists that make a very good living, do what they love, support their families, and get to spend every day doing what they love to do. So I would advise to have, that as a goal, as opposed to becoming famous or notable. It's about doing what you love for a living and reaching those fans.
I agree. Now, LaTecia, what's your recommendation, your final thoughts?
Oh man, I have to follow that. That's a tough one. I mean, I've been saying it all the time, but I think understanding your audience and, at bare minimum, a website and a newsletter so you can kind of craft your narrative. In addition to that, as David said, I would use it all, right? There are so many tools and resources that are out there for artists and their teams to really kind of integrate into the digital landscape. And so we're in the streaming era, and you do yourself a disservice as an artist if you're not at least trying all of these different things.
You're right about that. Jesse, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker, even though I happen to be in Topanga Canyon right now. So I'm all about the hustle. And I feel like New Yorkers reward the hustle. And I feel like in art, and especially in putting out your art and music, you've got to be everywhere. I think you got to be creating an abundance of content that's interesting. I think you got to be listening to your audience and continuing to super serve them. I think it's all about staying top of the social graph. And, unfortunately or fortunately, in some regards, whoever blows the most hot air, so to speak, is going to get the checks. And so I think you got to just keep making interesting content and keep pushing forward almost shamelessly, but with the integrity of what your passions are and what your message is.
I agree. And Jay, your final thoughts on everything?
Yeah, everybody said it, man. I think the one thing I believe in is make sure it's something that you love, because if not, people can tell and you'll fizzle out. So for me, I don't take on projects unless I'm passionate, and I ask the same of clients. Don't just chase the clout, don't just chase the names. Like, put some passion and love in what you're doing, and you'll see the results. It's not overnight, like Dave said. But if you got passion, then I think that's it. So for me, it starts with the love. Do you love what you're doing? Do you want to be in a studio, right? Like, what are the things that you love about it? I think those are the things artists should ask themselves, and that's what's going to bring longevity. And then I was on Clubhouse the other night, and somebody asked a good question, and it's rhetorical, but it's like, what are we going to do after we make music? And I think that's something that artists need to be thinking about, because there are ways to stay relevant in music long term after being an artist. Look at people like Quincy Jones. So I like people who think about longevity. So for me, I think music is a lifetime thing. So keep some passion in everything you do, and hustle, and with integrity and shamelessness. I like that, Jesse, for real.
Yeah. And Maya, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everybody, honestly. So I think mine would just be like the reasoning for being everywhere. It's kind of like fans, we expect artists to be everywhere. So like, if you aren't on YouTube, if you don't have a Facebook page, I'm just like, why not? It's like when you go to a hotel and they don't have Wi-Fi, you're just like, everyone has Wi-Fi, so it's just like certain things you kind of already expected. So I would say that is the reasoning for having to be anywhere or everywhere, and just being consistent with it.
I agree. My final thoughts on it, as a potential artist label, first, do your research. Make sure you pick a distributor that works best for your needs. Yes, Symphonic, we do provide a lot of various tools and assets for you to utilize this and be in control. But understand, if you are going the independent route, you are in control. So what you do as a leader is what we can help you, So the more assets you provide us, the more we can be able to benefit you and build out a structure. But from there, you also need a proper team, as we discussed, making sure you have a manager, some type of publicist, a marketing person, social media, video. Yes, that may sound expensive. So some people may have to wear multiple hats, but the key is making sure that you are identifying everything that's needed. So you are making sure that you are executing and hopefully setting up for a great release. But I hope everybody learned something great today. I do once again thank all the panelists for joining us today. It was a great discussion, and I look forward to joining everybody again in the future for future discussions. And I thank everybody for your time today. And everybody have a blessed day, and thank you for tuning in.